Hi everyone, and welcome to this LA Self-Publishing Conference presentation on Facebook ads. So I'm Ricardo Fayet. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the founders at Readthrough.com, and I'm also doing most of the marketing for Readthrough. You might have seen me at a bunch of conferences, and I've also been running Facebook ads for Readthrough for several years now. And as a side project, recently I also started advertising for private clients, authors, and for a few author friends of mine as well. Because I'm really passionate about Facebook ads. Like it's actually fun to me to set up campaigns, check how they're doing, and stay up to date about all the new things that Facebook keeps rolling out on their advertising platform. It's ever changing, and I personally find it really interesting. So yeah, I thought I'd be talking a little bit about Facebook ads on this presentation. But first, if you don't know anything about Readthrough, it is my duty to tell you a little bit about what we do. We're basically an international community of top publishing professionals. So think editors, from developmental editors onto copy editors and proofreaders. Think also designers, cover designers, illustrators. We also have book marketers, book publicists, and ghostwriters, and recently added author website designers for your author website. So pretty much any kind of freelancer you would ever need to hire through your author career. And the particularity of Readthrough is that we're very, very picky about the freelancers we let on our marketplace. We only accept around 3% of the professionals who apply to be listed. So you can basically trust the people you hire through Readthrough. Now, we won't be talking a lot about hiring freelance help in this session. I'll just touch on it at the very end. But we will be talking a lot about Facebook ads. So first, I'll start by addressing the kind of everyone's concern in the recent years is have Facebook ads really become more competitive? That's something that I hear a lot. And so I want to kind of debunk this myth and also explain where it comes from. Then I'll give you some tips, some very actionable tips on staying ahead of the competition. So it's really things that you can go implement right away after this presentation, open your ads manager and start making changes. That's my goal with this, that you get away with at least 2-3 ideas to test right away. And then I'll be talking about Readthrough, because I think a lot of authors kill campaigns too early when they're actually making them money thanks to Readthrough. And finally, I will touch on whether it makes sense to hire professional help, because that's a question I get all the time. Can I just hire someone to do ads for me? Yes, you could, but in most cases that might not be the best idea. So I'll be talking about that a little bit. Let's get into it. Have Facebook ads become more expensive? Well, yes and no. And to explain why, it's important to understand how authors are actually using Facebook ads. How do we all authors use Facebook ads nowadays? We basically target the same kind of audiences. For example, if we're writing thrillers, I might target fans of Lee Child and fans of James Patterson and people who like Amazon and Amazon Kindle. And guess what? Every thriller author out there is going to set up the exact same kind of audience to target. People who are interested in Lee Child and who are also interested in James Patterson and who are also interested in Amazon Kindle. That's a big enough audience already, 65,000 people to start testing. So this kind of audience, narrowed by interests and further narrowed by Amazon Kindle, often sticking to Facebook feed placements. 4 or 5 years ago, there were maybe 10 indie authors who were targeting that kind of audience and a handful of publishers. So great times. But nowadays, a lot of people have given this advice, and I have given this advice countless times, targeting big comp authors in your genre. What happens? Well, there are now hundreds of indie authors and a lot more publishers targeting this same audience. Everyone who's going to advertise a thriller is going to think of some variations some variation of this audience. So obviously this increases the cost of reaching this audience because Facebook is a bidding platform. So the more people are bidding, the higher the bids have to go. More importantly, you're not just bidding against other indie authors. I touched on that, but big publishers are running Facebook ads as well. So this is just taken from some random examples from Penguin Books and Pan Macmillan's pages. I'll show you later on how you can actually spy on other Facebook pages running ads. But you can see all major publishers nowadays, they run ads, and they generally have a bunch of other brands under them. Like Macmillan has Tor.com, for example, that they can run ads under. So they actually have big brands. Pan Macmillan can have their Tor page run ads for their sci-fi authors. That's super powerful. So if there's, for example, a big release coming up in your genre from a big publisher, you can expect that publisher to spend a lot of money promoting the pre-order and the launch. What that means is the audiences they'll target, which are probably the same audiences you target, might become more expensive. So if you have an audience getting inexplicably more expensive, the frequency is still low and nothing's changed, it's just getting more expensive, just lower the budget. Don't kill it off, maybe lower the budget. Check if there are any other big releases in your genre, any other big competitors who might be advertising heavily, spending a lot of money. Because that's one thing publishers have. They have a lot more money, a lot bigger advertising budgets. They don't spend those budgets for a lot of authors, but when they do, that's serious money that they throw at Facebook. So yeah, if you have this kind of audience getting expensive, don't kill off the campaign, just lower the budget, $1, $2 a day, let it run, see if it gets better. If it doesn't, kill it, but it might get better suddenly. It's happened to me in the past. And then you just reactivate the audience. All that to say, Facebook ads in themselves, they aren't getting more expensive, but audiences do get more expensive as more and more people target them. So what do you want to do? You want to find your own audiences. You want to differentiate yourself through audience. So I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of blue ocean marketing, but I thought it'd be a great slide to include because it's a beautiful picture. And also because this concept applies really well to Facebook ads. The idea of behind blue ocean marketing is that in marketing, there are red oceans, red seas, and blue oceans. In these red seas, there are a lot of boats, of fishing boats competing for the same fish. So it leads to basically less fish. And also it makes it harder for every fish in that ocean to get any results, basically. Whereas blue oceans are these magical places where you're alone on your boat. There's no one else in the blue ocean, so all the fish are for you, and you just have to throw your net and you catch a bunch of them. So obviously it's kind of a utopian, kind of an idyllic place, but again, this concept really applies well to Facebook ads. If we translate it to Facebook audiences, well, the red oceans are basically the obvious interest audiences I explained before. Everyone's going to think about targeting these 2-3 big household name authors in their genre. So it's a red sea because everyone's going to go there. Then you have some kind of purple seas, as I'd call them, that are less obvious interest audience. That's not the 2-3 big household names. It's maybe some big indies who are big enough to have their audience on Facebook, or smaller trad pub authors who have a small audience, or kind of creative audiences that are not related to authors and books, but that you can mix and match with other interests to create a relevant audience that a lot of other authors won't have thought about. So these are what I call less obvious interest audiences. So they're purple oceans because you're going to find less authors targeting them, but you might have other industries, other players targeting them. And finally, you've got the proper blue oceans, which are audiences you create yourself, custom audiences and lookalikes. So I already explained what the red oceans are. I'm going to go next into the purple ones, how to find less obvious interest to target. Now, there's a technique I generally use to find as many interests as possible to target when I start working for a new author, and that involves Amazon's Also Boats and Facebook's Audience Insights. I'm going to give you a quick demo of how I do that on this book by an ally indie author. I hope she won't mind. So if I were to try to find audiences to target to promote this book, it's obviously sci-fi, some kind of space. There's some space opera with a circus in there. It's a great book, actually. I read it and I loved it. So if you like that kind of book, definitely grab it. And so what I do is I open the books page and I go to the also boats. So thank God Amazon has reinstated also boats on most book pages. So that's really great for us marketers. So I try to find in the also boats names that are big enough to have an audience on Facebook. So for example, if I take this Janetta Penner here, I've never heard of her. And so I'm guessing that she won't have an interest in Facebook. Sorry, Janetta. However, Cory Doctorow, well, I can bet that he has an audience on Facebook. As you can see, I can find him here. Sorry, I didn't explain what this was. This is Facebook Audience Insights. So when you are in Facebook Ads Manager, you can open this little burger here and go to Audience Insights here. And this basically gives you a lot of info about any audience. Here I've selected the US and I haven't filtered my search by any kind of demographic. And I just want to use this to test whether these names exist as interests on Facebook. So Cory Doctorow, obviously, and his book exists as interests. Now what's interesting with Facebook Audience Insights is going to tell you what this audience looks like. So it's 58% men. Going to tell you about their relationship status and education level, which is not that interesting. And then what they're interested in. And then if you go to the second tab, page likes, you can see people who like Cory Doctorow, what other pages do they like? So there's For the Win, which is a page about sports, so it's not that interesting. There's Boing Boing, which could kind of make sense. But I mean, if I want to advertise a space opera, it might make sense for me to target Cory Doctorow. It's worth testing, but it certainly won't make sense for me to target fans of For the Win or Boing Boing. So sometimes you'll find interesting stuff in here, and sometimes not. Obviously, you got to trust your instincts on that. Cool, so I found Cory, that's nice. I'm gonna try to find more. I don't think any of those will be available as audiences on Facebook. So next step, what do? I open this books page and I'm gonna go into the also boats of this also boat. Cory Doctorow obviously is a household name, so he'll have more household names, or at least like prominent authors in there that I can target. Isaac Asimov, I could try. It's not entirely relevant, but obviously if I look at Isaac Asimov, he'll definitely have an audience in there. I'm not gonna plug him in for now because it's kind of sci-fi classics. Robert, Robert, are you available as an audience? I believe you are. Yes, he is. So here, by combining the two, we've got 10, 15K monthly active people. That's not a lot, so you probably want to find more people like that. Nick Webb's really big in sci-fi, but I don't think he's available now. Last time I checked. Should check regularly, by the way, because these tend to change pretty quickly. Neil Gaiman is obviously available, but he's not. He's a very versatile author, so if I target Neil Gaiman with a space opera, it's probably not going to work that great. But I mean, it's worth a try. You can always try. Who else can I try, Patrick? Nope. There's a lot of trial and an error, obviously, on this. You got to go through a lot of people. You got to know your genre as well. Here, Andrew Norton, for example, is available. And it's still small. So this is something you can do, and then you can check the page likes. We're still got For the Win there. So it's not great, but you can go through more authors like that and try to find more interests to target. Time consuming, I really haven't thrown a workaround for that, but it's almost every time it's allowed me to find some authors I didn't really know had an interest audience on Facebook. And if I didn't know, if it wasn't obvious to me, it probably wasn't obvious to other authors. So it's probably authors that aren't targeted that often by people running ads. Another thing you can do is, instead of checking also boats like this, is checking also authors. That can go a little bit quicker. So you go to an author's page, and you go to customers also boat items by, which I call the also authors. And here you can find, so Neil Stevenson, again, not really ideal for space opera. Martha Wells probably would be, so I'm gonna try if she, no, she hasn't. Ernest Cline makes sense, or could make sense at least for testing. Ernest Cline, he is available, he's available, and boom, we found a pretty big potential comp author to target. Obviously it's not totally space opera, but I think these two could be interesting audiences to target at least. The further you're gonna go into, so if into kind of also boats, the further you're gonna dilute the relevance. So if I look at also authors from Ernest Cline, I'm gonna get into Hard Sci-Fi by Andy Weir, actually definitely worth targeting. I'm gonna get into Stephen King, where it's like, yeah, thriller horror, so we're veering away, especially if we're talking household names, we're gonna veer away from the actual niche genre we want to target. So that's one way to find other authors who have interests. Now, authors are not the only interest you can target. Obviously, this is not like Amazon ads or BookBub ads where you really want to stick to kind of author names and book titles. This is Facebook ads. You've got more interest, you've got more things to try. If I plug in space opera, which is an obvious interest to target, I can start looking at the page lags. So I've got Star Wars, okay, pretty obvious, but I've got Firefly. Firefly is actually a great audience. If you're targeting, you've got a bunch of them actually. If you're targeting sci-fi, to writing sci-fi, Firefly is actually a pretty cool audience. And it's slightly harder to find intuitively than like Star Wars, you know. And so on and so on. So this is the idea as well. If I plug in military sci-fi, I can find more ideas in here. You can try Stargate, Battlestar Galactica, etc., Serenity, and we find out Firefly in here as well. So you can find a bunch of ideas. And obviously you should, if you're targeting something that's not author related, not book related, you should always narrow down by something book related. So I'll go into some examples later, but if you're doing a price promotion, narrow down by BookBub audience, BookBub interest, sorry. If you're targeting an Amazon book that's in Kindle Unlimited, narrow down by the 3 Kindle interests, Amazon Kindle, Kindle, and Kindle Store. If you're targeting a book on iBooks, you can target by iBooks, etc., etc. So always narrow it down, especially if you're using interests that are not immediately book related. All right, that's it for kind of finding interest-based audiences. As I said, you should always narrow and expand. So for example, here is an audience that's pretty obvious, but thanks to the kind of narrowing, maybe it's going to be a lot more relevant. Basically, if I'm writing an epic fantasy book and I'm running a price promo on it, then this audience makes a lot of sense for me because I target the intersection of 2 of the biggest epic fantasy authors, narrowed down by the BookBub and eReader News Today interest here. So some interest to try out, as I mentioned, for price promos. You've got eReader News Today, you've got Pixel of Ink, ebook lovers, free ebooks, or free Kindle books. All these are available audiences. A lot of these are small, and on top of the obvious BookBub one that I haven't put in there because it's obvious, not because I forgot it. A lot of these are small, but if you put them all together incrementally, it'll create a big enough audience for you to target. And then if you want to advertise books outside Amazon, because we don't really want to throw more money at Amazon now, do we? Especially if you have high-priced box sets on iBooks or on Kobo, you really should. You can target, they all have available audiences. So Kobo has Kobo Ink, Kobo eReader. So try those. Barnes & Noble has Barnes & Noble and Barnes & Noble Book. And iBooks, Apple has iBooks, iBook. Maybe they have Apple Books now as well. And what I really recommend you do is narrow down by devices. Apple owns iPhone. And also when you set up your ads, actually when you set up ads on mobile, you can restrict on which devices your ad shows. So if you're targeting iBooks audience, if you're sending people to an Apple Books page, make sure you only advertise to people who are browsing on their iPhone or iPad. Make sure you only advertise to people in the Apple ecosystem, because otherwise that will drastically reduce your costs. As I said, actionable advice that you can implement right away. So these were purple oceans, remember, like less obvious interest audience. Now we're going to be talking about blue oceans. Blue oceans are basically custom and lookalike audiences. So audiences you create yourself. Now there are a lot of ways to create an audience, but one of the best ones, actually I can probably talk more about that, but one of the best ones is to use the Facebook pixel. So I'm gonna go in here, and if I go to audiences here, there are lots of ways to create custom audiences. So create custom audience. I can select either customer file. So if you have a mailing list, I can use your website traffic. So we're going to be talking about that in a second. It's the Facebook pixel. I can use app activity, unless you have an app that's not relevant to you. And I can use engagement. Engagement, customer file, and website traffic are the main ones you're going to use. Engagement is awesome. You can target all the people who interacted with your Facebook page in the past. Facebook page, everyone who engaged with your page. Video, anyone who watched your video in the past. Lead form if you're using Facebook lead ads. Instagram business profile, if you're linked to your Instagram account, you can target all the people who engaged with your Instagram business page in the past 365 days. So that's a bunch of custom audiences you can create. Custom audiences are usually super small, unless you're a big author already. They're usually small, but they allow you to create lookalike audiences off of them. And those are big. And more importantly, when custom audiences become a little bit big, for example, if you have a mailing list of 20,000 people or more, that's definitely an audience you can already retarget rather, when you have a new launch coming out, because it's people who are already familiar with your brand, who've interacted with your brand in the past. So there'll be really good audiences to target for full price books or new releases. Typically they're warm audiences already. Cool. So back to my presentation. A pixel is worth a thousand interests. One of the best decisions you can make right now is to place your pixel everywhere, your Facebook pixel. The pixel is basically Facebook's tracking system that allows Facebook to know when people visit your website or book funnel, and that allows you to retarget those audiences afterwards. If you go to your events manager in Facebook, you can create a Facebook pixel. And once it's created, you'll have the pixel ID here. So fetch the pixel ID, copy it somewhere, then go to your book funnel page, if you have a book funnel page for any reader magnet, and add the pixel ID in the advanced settings at the bottom of this giveaway page, and then name your events. You have two events. The first event is when people land on the giveaway page. So I'd recommend a page view or view content event there. And then a second event when people actually have entered their email address and have redeemed the book. Then you can have a complete registration event there. So you can set up the Facebook pixel on BookFunnel with two different events, and that will actually tell you the percentage of people who land on BookFunnel and actually download your freebie and sign up to your list. So what your conversion is there. And it will also allow you to retarget not only all the people who sign up to your list to BookFunnel, but all the people who land on your BookFunnel page. So it's going to be probably a much bigger audience, and the bigger the custom audience, the easier it is to create a lookalike and to retarget. So right away after this, if you use BookFunnel, make sure to go place your pixel in there. It doesn't cost anything, and it will allow you to start generating custom audiences right away. Another great way to create custom audiences is using video. Video is not just great because Facebook is known for pushing video and giving you lower costs, lower CPMs for video and all that, but because if 10,000 people view your video, that's a 10,000 custom audience that you can create and retarget at any point, and that you can create a lookalike out of. So here's an example from our good friend Mark, one of his ads that he actually, yeah, I'll show you how to find this, but that actually came up in my feed. And that's a video. And I really like this tactic, and I'm actually done it for some clients of mine. And it's to run kind of book trailer ads like this one. So targeting a wide audience. So you take a big lookalike or a huge interest audience and you throw them a video announcing a book launch. You're not so much interested in them clicking at learn more and buying their pre-order, because it's a cold audience. So they're probably not gonna buy your book, but you're gonna generate a lot of impressions. You're gonna generate awareness, basically. You're gonna generate awareness in your genre around your upcoming release, and you're gonna get people to view the video. You're gonna generate video views and some sales. And during launch week, if you've accumulated maybe, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 video views, it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that. I mean, it does require some budget, but it's not as huge as you would think. You can retarget all the people who view 10 seconds or 25% or 50% of your video with your buy my book ad, basically. And you can get those people to buy a book at full price because they've seen your video, they're familiar with your brand, they knew that they had a book coming up, and they bothered watching certain percentage of your video. So you know that it's a somewhat qualified audience, and so your buy my book ads are gonna be a lot more effective. Another example, this is for a reader magnet from an author, free prequel, so nothing crazy here, something a lot of you are doing. Free prequel novella set up on BookFunnel, and she's advertising it through a video ad. Why a video ad? Because that's a huge retargeting machine. That's a huge custom audience making machine, because you're going to have a lot of things happening here by promoting this kind of post. First, you're going to get video views. So same idea as before, you can retarget all the people who view your ad. Then you're going to have people who click on BookFunnel. They're going to click on BookFunnel. You have the pixel on BookFunnel, so you're going to retarget all the people who view your BookFunnel page. And then a percentage of those is then going to subscribe to your mailing list, and your mailing list is obviously custom list, so it's another retargetable audience. So you're going to be able to generate three kinds of custom audiences: one that's going to be very big, video views; one that's going to be slightly smaller, BookFunnel pixel hits; and then one that's even smaller, which is mailing list signups. Now with an ad like that, I've been able to generate signups to a mailing list at under 20 cents per signup. So first, it can grow your mailing list very quickly and very efficiently, and create additional audiences to retarget and create lookalikes off of. So I'm really, really positive about video. I know everyone's talking about video, but I definitely second that. There are a few tools that you can use. You can use Lumen 5, which is paid, but it can basically help you turn text into video very, very easily. So you just kind of write a little script. If you're promoting a thriller, when was the last time you screamed reading a book, get this new release by the USA Today bestselling author, blah, blah, blah. And you can pick some kind of free video footage to go along with it. So you pay for a license to use Lumen 5, but then you can use they have a lot of free video footage in there, and a really, really easy way to create a video. There's not a lot of customization possibilities, but it's very easy to use and very intuitive. Wordable is a phone app that allows you to create little animated images like this one, where you've got like some sprinkles going on, things like that. I also use another app called, I haven't put it on the slide, but I use Pixaloop as well. There's a bunch of those. There's a bunch of apps like that for kind of turning images into videos, animating images. And a really cool website that Mark Dawson told me about, so all credits to him on that one, is Pond5, which is basically Getty images for videos. So you can find a bunch of stock video footage that's paid. And there's a lot of really good stuff on there, especially for sci-fi. There are some amazing spaceship videos on there. Great, so we've talked about how to create custom audiences. Every time I've said you can create a lookalike off of that. For those of you who don't know what lookalikes are and have been like puzzled for the past few minutes, a lookalike is basically taking a custom audience, so people who viewed your video or your mailing list, and telling Facebook, okay, try to find people in the United Kingdom or in the United States that are similar to this audience of mine. And that's generally expressed as a percentage of country population. So in the US, it's going to create audiences of around 1.2 million people if you stick to 1% of the country, which you should in the beginning. So always stick to 1%. So guidelines for winner lookalike audience, because everyone wants to create lookalikes, but most lookalikes are not going to work if you don't, if you're not a little bit patient. First, I really recommend a successful custom audience. Test your custom audience first. I've had some video views. I've had videos that gathered hundreds of thousands of views, and I created a lookalike of that, and I was like, great, it's going to be a great lookalike because it's a big audience. And the lookalike didn't work, so I was thinking, okay, that's weird. So I actually tried retargeting that video views audience, and it didn't work either, because it just wasn't a video that was relevant enough. So obviously, first use videos that are relevant, that showcase your books, or that clearly express your genre. And then test your custom audiences. Try retargeting with a very small budget to your custom audience, see what the response is. And if your custom audience works and it is big enough, then create a lookalike. What is big enough? In my experience, 2,000, 3,000 people. Anything below that, your lookalike's probably not going to be great. Anything about 5,000, the lookalikes is probably going to work. I've had some Facebook marketing partners, so people from Facebook advisors, telling me that it's best if you have 10,000 people in your custom audience. But I've had great lookalikes with 3,000 people. So yeah, test basically. All right, that's differentiation through audiences, how to find other audiences. Now I'm going to get into creatives, because obviously if everyone targets Lee Child and James Patterson, who's going to win? The person with the most interesting and creative and relevant ad. So if you have never done that before on Facebook, I highly recommend split testing audiences and creatives. When you set up a new campaign, you can select split test here, and now it's actually available in a bunch more places. And you can split test the creative. One great thing is, once you've created a bunch of different ads to split test, when the split test is over, Facebook tells you the percentage of chances of the winning ad being the same if you were to run the test again. So for example, here there's a 60% chance that I'd get the same winner. It's not a huge percentage, it's big enough for me to believe that this is really the best ad. So if this is your first time advertising a new book, or testing a new audience, or really getting into Facebook ads, make sure to split test ads. Unless you go straight into dynamic creative ads, which we're going to talk about in a second. A great way to get inspiration is to spy on your competitors. So this is a real neat trick. If you have never heard of that, I'm sure you're going to like it. Is you take the Facebook page, which you're not even have to like, of someone, a big author in your genre who you suspect is running ads. And then you go to the sidebar here of the page and you go to info and ads. And then you can see all the active ads from this author. She isn't running any ads in my location, which is Spain, which kind of makes sense. I'm a bit disappointed. Like, you do have readers in Spain as well, Bella. But she's running ads in a bunch of other places. She's running ads in the States. So I'm going to check, I have my romance book that I really want to promote on Facebook. Bella Andre is a big comp author of mine. So what kind of ads are working for her? I'm pretty sure she's been able to do a lot of tests. So I can check all the ads that she's running. I can immediately see that she's using a lot of ad copy. It's basically built on characters. It's more character focused than plot focused. Not surprising for a romance book. Interesting use of stars as emojis. Little review. And she uses free and Kindle Unlimited and Kindle Unlimited here. So these are probably things that I could replicate on my end. I'm not saying copy this, because copying is never great, but do get inspiration from it. Here she's including a lot of links, so you could try that as well. And you can basically spy on any other author or publisher out there. That's how I found these publisher ads I showed you earlier in the presentation. So a little trick to basically spy on everyone. This is actually a bit worrying that you can spy so much on what other advertisers are doing, but it's out there, so I wanted to show it to you. There you go. Which also means that other people might be spying on you, by the way. But that's how you get inspiration. Cool. I want to spend a little bit of time on the text and images thing, because if you've read the book by Michael Cooper, How My Facebook Ads Suck, which I really recommend you read. I'm actually promoting it later in this presentation, I think. He says to never use your cover or any form of text in your ads. In my experience, I wouldn't be I wouldn't really say that. I wouldn't really advise for that. But I get his logic, and his logic is that Facebook limits the reach of your images as soon as it sees text in them. They don't want to see text on images. So since your images without text, and covers obviously have text on them, because if you have a cover without title and author name, then I really think you should rethink your cover. So covers have text on them. Ads with covers on them are ads with text on them, images with text on them. So they're going to get a limited reach, and limited reach means higher costs generally. Now, in my experience, in my tests, that's true for sci-fi and fantasy a lot of the times. Not every time, but a lot of the times. So I'm going to give you an example here. One ad has a cover in it. Another ad doesn't have the cover in it. And the ad without the cover has a substantially higher CTR. These aren't great, but these are quick tests I ran. And it is true that in most of my tests for sci-fi and fantasy, images without the cover on them have higher click-through rates. My hypothesis for that is that it's easy for fantasy and sci-fi to find images that are very compelling, that tell you immediately about the genre, and that are also going to draw people to click. Now, what I would test is the conversion of those ads using an Amazon affiliate link, which is technically forbidden, but you should still do it. Test the conversion, because what I found often is that on images that don't showcase the cover, the conversion afterwards on the Amazon page was lower, because some people click through not knowing that this is actually promoting a book. They see the image, oh, cool image, and then Buried Out of Orbit 1. Oh, that's an awesome new Netflix series. Ah, no, wait, it's a book? I don't read. So you can get into issues like that. So always check your conversion. It's not all about CTR. Give you another example. This is cozy mystery. It's a lot more difficult to come up with an image that conveys cozy mystery. So in this case, I've run 4 different ads. I've split test 4 different ads to promote this box set that was discounted to $0.99. And which one had the highest CTR? The one that had not only the covers on them, not only the price, but this week only on it. The one that had the most text on it. The one that had the most limited reach by Facebook. So reach is not always everything. Sometimes adding text in there actually further increases your chances of getting a good CTR and a lower cost per click. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about dynamic ads. A lot of people are talking about dynamic ads. I think if you're one of Mark Dawson's students, he's going to include dynamic ads in his next iteration of the ads course, which I recommend as well, by the way. And a lot of people, are talking about dynamic ads. I'm not a big fan of them myself, but they're definitely working for enough people that I think you should give them a try. So dynamic ads are basically you telling Facebook, here are 10 images, here are 10 headlines, here are 10 short descriptions and newsfeed descriptions. Play with them, have fun, and find out which combination is the best. And for which format as well, whether it's for Facebook, Instagram, stories, etc. So you select, what's important to know is you select the dynamic creative option in the ad set, not on the ad level. At the ad set level, when you create a new ad set, you select dynamic creative here. And then on the ad creation level, you have the option to enter up to 5 headlines. Sorry, I said 10, but it's 5 headlines, 5 newsfeed link descriptions. You can add in 5 images as well. And you can also add more calls to action. So for example, a lot of people wonder whether learn more is better than download, is better than shop now, is better than sign up. Dynamic ads are a way to throw a bunch of things in there and see which ones work best. So instead of running split tests, as I was showing earlier, you could just set up all your options in here in the dynamic ad, and then let Facebook optimize. For me, when I've tried this, it hasn't worked better than like the best ads I was running after split testing, but for a lot of authors, they are working much better. So again, test and see what works best for you, for your book, for your genre. One cool thing with dynamic ads though, is that you can check which headlines, images, and text are performing the best. To do that, just select your ad in the ads level, go to breakdown, and in the breakdown in the drop down menu under breakdown, you can select by dynamic creative asset, and Facebook's gonna break down the results. You can view combination is basically the winning combination, and then you can also view the performance of your different texts, headlines, descriptions, call to action, etc. So you can actually see which assets of yours are working the best. So identify the best performing assets. Once you've spent like a couple of days or weeks advertising that ad and you have a big enough data set, identify your best performing assets and then try to create additional assets similar to your best performing ones. Then replace your worst performing assets by the new ones you just created, and just keep iterating and improving like that. Just like identify what's working the best, stop what's working the worst, and replace what was working the worst by similar or alternative versions of what was working the best. It's pure logic. But I believe that's a good way to keep improving your dynamic ads and basically feed Facebook with more and more good stuff for them to mix and match. Also think about all formats. Don't hesitate about using square videos or other square images and other formats of images, even portrait mode, because especially if you select like stories placements or Instagram placements, Facebook's probably automatically going to use the right images and dimensions for the right placements. All right, so this was quickly something on dynamic ads. If you're not doing dynamic ads, and even if you're doing them, I also want to be talking about changing the way you do ads. A lot of people are going to do, even dynamic ads, single image ads. So one image, headline, description, and that's it. And I think there's some kind of reader fatigue on Facebook feeds about seeing the same kinds of ads every time. So you can try new formats. I personally have had a lot of success with, depending on the genre always, with carousel and collection canvas, or now they call them instant experience ads. So this is a carousel ad basically. It works really well if you're promoting a series. These are 2 examples, basically 4 or 5 book series, and you create one image for each book, and you have 4 of them in a carousel. This is a little bit more attractive. Also, Facebook is trying to push the carousel format, so you get slightly better reach and slightly lower CPM on those. But more importantly, for readers, it stresses the idea immediately when they see this in their feed that we're talking about the series. So you're immediately going to attract series readers. Now, in most cases, you're only going to get clicks and purchases on book one, because again, you're reaching people on Facebook who don't know about you yet. They haven't read your books. So it makes sense for them to start on book one. So you're not going to get a lot of sales on the following books. You're going to get some, maybe, but not a lot of them. But the purpose of showing the other books is to, again, stress the idea that this is a series, and this is what makes carousel ads for series oftentimes more powerful than a single image ad. Now you can take the carousel and bring it to another dimension, which is the instant experience ads, as Facebook call them now. Instant experience is basically you show either a video and a little headline like this in your ad, or a video headline and then carousel below. With always some description above. And then when people click on it, it doesn't go straight to Amazon. It opens an instant experience within Facebook. And this in the instant experience, you can show more things. You can show more text, show another video, create a whole landing page for your books. Basically, you can put buy buttons to all the different stores. So on the one hand, it adds one step in the buying process. So a lot of people are not going to like it because of that. It adds an extra step in the process. But what I found is that can actually be helpful, and I'll explain why just in the next slide. But what I also want to stress is that this is really big for retargeting, because it generates video views if you have a video to open the instant experience. So video views are a retargetable audience. You can include your reader magnet as well, so it's a retargetable audience. All the people who open your instant experience, they can be retargeted as well. You can create a custom audience based off people who open an instant experience. And it also drives sales, and again, it stands out because not a lot of authors are running these kinds of ads, not a lot of publishers are running these kinds of ads either. So when you see this format in your feed, you're like, that's weird, what kind of ad is this? What kind of even post is this? All right, so as I said earlier, it's not all about cost per click and click-through rate. A lot of authors are just focusing on this metric when running ads, and it makes sense. You want to get the cheapest possible cost per click. But clicks mean a lot of different things on Facebook. When you just get the normal Facebook dashboard, you just get the clicks all and cost per click all. These are the things you usually see. And this can be very, very low and can be like error inducing. Because here, for example, we've got a collection, which is an instant experience, and we're getting a lower cost per click. But this is people who click on the ad and open the instant experience. So obviously it's a lower cost because Facebook wants to encourage people to use instant experiences. But what you're actually interested in is how many people go to Amazon or go to retailers after seeing the instant experience. Sorry. And this is measured by unique outbound clicks. And this is a very, very important metric that you can only view if you customize your reporting dashboard on Facebook. So here I can see that 84% of people who click on the ad view the instant experience, and 269 out of those 940 clicks go to Amazon. This is a carousel, so there's no instant experience. When people click on a carousel, they go straight to Amazon. So out of these 483 people who clicked on it, there were 302 unique outbound clicks. This is probably because same people clicked twice, or there were some clicks on like page or on the page or on like or on things like that. So these are counted as clicks as well, but they're not outbound. They don't go to the retailers. So you want to measure the outbound. So here, I could think, okay, this instant experience is working better because it has a lower CPC. So I'm going to kill the carousel as I did. But if I look into actually unique outbound cost per click, I can see that the cost per click is much, much, much higher. It cost me 24 pence to get a reader to click to the retailers after seeing my instant experience, whether it only cost me 15 pence for one reader to go to Amazon after seeing this carousel. So I should actually stop the collection and keep the carousel going. Except there's a last dimension. I was talking about that earlier. It's like the conversion on an Amazon page. I monitor that with an Amazon affiliate link, and what I found out is the carousel, I set up 2 different tracking codes, and what I found out is the carousel traffic actually converts at 10% on the Amazon page, whereas the traffic from the instant experience, because people have watched an instant experience, they've learned about that book, they've interacted with my brand, and they've made the decision to click a second time to take them to the retailers, that conversion was twice as high as the one from the carousel. So all in all, we've got a cost per click that's higher for the collection and the carousel, but we've got an Amazon conversion that is higher on the instant experience than on the carousel. In the end, the ROI was similar. But why am I keeping the collection going instead of the carousel? It's because I care more about conversion than I care about clicks. Remember, if you've read David Gaughran's awesome newsletters and books, you'll know that Amazon rewards conversion. If you have a book that if you get like 1,000 clicks on a book and no one buys it, Amazon's just going to kill your book, because they're going to think this, like, I'm never going to promote this book, because when I send it to people, if I send it to people, no one's going to buy them, and I am interested in actually selling books. So if you manage to send traffic to Amazon that converts, that's probably going to help your book a lot more than if you send traffic to Amazon that doesn't convert. So be wary about tracking conversion, and don't hesitate to qualify your audiences more by running instance experience ads or ads with an intermediary landing page, even if that reduces the amount of people who land on Amazon. If it gives you better conversion, then that's actually better. Now, a last word on mathematics, because I know we all love that. Don't forget about read-through. If you're already familiar about read-through, then I'm sorry for the next few slides. But if you aren't, this is probably going to change the way you think about ads. So it's really important. I like to use this little example of an author who has a first book at $0.99, a second book at $3.99. So the first book is perma $0.99, so they only have a 35% royalty on Amazon on it. Now your Facebook ad campaign has a cost per click of 10 cents per click, and your Amazon book page converts at 10%. So it costs you 10 cents to bring one reader to Amazon, and only 1 in 10 readers actually buy your book. So each sale costs you $1, basically. Now, one sale costs you $1 and only makes you around 35 cents, because again, you're on the 35% royalty. So you can think, okay, I'm losing money here, I'm gonna kill this campaign, which is actually a really, really, really good campaign. And a campaign that's actually making you money, because even if just 25% of the readers who buy book 1 buy book 2, you're actually breaking even. There's a little formula below. But basically your cost per sale is $1, and then your earnings per sale are these 35 cents on the sale of book 1, plus the 25% probability that they'll buy book 2, and the earnings of book 2 are $3.99 times 70%. So that all in all amounts to $1. Now, if you've written a good series, a good first book, you'll probably see a read-through of more than 25%. And what I call read-through is this percentage here. The amount of readers who will make their way from book 1 to book 2, and from book 2 to book 3, and from book 3 to book 4, etc. And so if you factor in read-through in your ROI calculations, it can actually help you keep Facebook campaigns that you thought were losing you money when they're actually making you money. So how do you calculate read-through? It's simple. You just look at your latest book report over a sizable period, and you divide the number of sales of book 2, 3, 4, etc. Sorry, there's a typo here, in your series by the sales of book 1. Unless you've run huge promotions on book 2, 3, 4, or if you've had a new release or something like that, which are going to skew the data, you should see a lot more sales on book 1 than on book 2, more sales on book 2 than on book 3, because people make their way through your series, basically. So read-through is expressed as a percentage. So 50% of people who buy book 1 will read book 2. Basically, sales book 2 divided by sales book 1, 50%. And when estimating read-through, when doing this using your book report, make sure you use a significant data set. So at least a 90-day period, I'd say. And ideally a 90-day period in which you haven't had any promotions, free promotions, price promotions, new releases on any of the books in the series. That'll give you relatively clean read-through figures. And then you just basically calculate how much a sale of book 1 is worth to you to understand how much you're ready to spend in terms on ads. So for example, on a 5-book series with book 1 priced at $0.99 and all the following ones at $3.99, if you see that you have a read-through of 60% for books 2 to 5, so like 60% of people who read book 1 read book 2 and then 3, 4, 5, then you just create a little formula. Okay, how much am I earning if I manage to get a sale of book 1, how much is that sale going to earn me throughout the lifetime? It's going to earn me the earnings on sale of book 1, obviously, and these earnings are going to be immediate, $0.99 times 35%. Then it's going to earn me the earnings on sale of books 2 to 5 multiplied by the read-through. So there's 60% percentage that this sale is actually going to earn me a sale of books 2 to 5. And books 2 to 5 are worth 4 times, obviously, 4 books, 4 times $3.99 times 70%. So all in all, a sale of book 1 is worth $7 to me. So any ads that I run where my cost per sale is under $7 are making me money. Now this money is not immediate, obviously, because it takes time for readers to make their way through your series. So you should be conscious about that. Just don't start spending crazy amounts of money that you can't afford, because you're not going to make that money immediately. You're going to make that money as they make their way through your series. So do be careful about that. Then there are other factors to take into account before stopping a campaign that you think is losing you money. There's read-through, but there's also if your book is in Kindle Unlimited. I'm not going to get into Kindle Unlimited calculations, but if you read Michael Cooper's book, he's got a great first chapter about read-through in Kindle Unlimited. Do keep in mind though that there's a high, if you mention Kindle Unlimited, as we saw Bella Andrew does, in your ad image and your ad copy, you've got a higher chance of people clicking in your ad, buying or getting the book for free on Kindle Unlimited, because your ad is naturally going to appeal more to Kindle Unlimited readers. So the ratio, the probability of people, of readers clicking in your ad and getting the book through Kindle Unlimited rather than purchasing it is much, much higher than if you didn't include Kindle Unlimited in your ad creative. Also, if your targeting is narrowed by Kindle interest, that's also going to make it more likely that people who click on it are in Kindle Unlimited. Is your ad accumulating a lot of video views and interactions? I've actually kept ads that weren't necessarily at the cost per result that I wanted, just because they were getting a lot of interaction and video views, and these are things that allow me to create custom audiences and retarget, so I kept those going. Are the sales contributing to ranking improvements? Obviously, you might have a campaign that's generating a lot of sales for you with an ROI that's slightly negative, but you may think that these sales are enough for your books to rank well, and that will bring other sales that you are not accounting for in your ROI calculation, so you'll keep the ads going. And finally, something I touched on before, are your ads negatively or positively impacting your Amazon page conversion? If you have ads that are working super well in terms of cost per click, but that are converting very, very poorly on Amazon, you're basically sending a lot of traffic to Amazon that doesn't convert, and you're signaling to Amazon, you're artificially signaling to Amazon that your book is a loser. You don't want to do that. Similarly, if you have an ad that's converting very well on Amazon, but that's really high to get clicks on, like it costs you a lot of money to get clicks, but these clicks convert very well, you might want to keep that ad because it signals to Amazon that your book converts well. Should you hire a professional marketer? I promise I would get into that, because I'm thinking at this point, you're thinking, can I just get someone to do all this for me? Because I want to write my books. I don't want to go into all these ROI calculations and maths and all that boring stuff. And you like Facebook ads, you do it for me. Well, yes, there are some people running Facebook ads for authors, but there's not a lot of them out there. We do have some people on Readthrough, but again, it's not a lot of them. And more importantly, I think it makes sense in some cases to work with someone on your ads, but only if you meet certain criteria. First, you should know the basics of advertising. You should understand the presentation that I just gave. CPC, ROI, etc. Because when the advertiser is going to give you a report on how the ads went, they might be telling you, yeah, you're making a lot of money, but if you're not actually able to look into the data, you won't know whether they're actually making you money or not, those ads. Ads work best, especially on Facebook, if you want to advertise a series with a solid read-through. For all the reasons I explained above, it's hard to advertise other things than series, and if your series has a bad read-through, then you shouldn't really try advertising it on Facebook. If you want to try a new marketing channel, if you've never tried Facebook ads, but you understand the basics of advertising, then yeah, it could make sense to hire someone. And the real case in which it makes the most sense, if you've been running semi-successful ad campaigns and you just want someone to scale them and outsource it to someone, then that makes sense as well, because you're going to be able to verify whether they're doing the job properly or not. When does it not make sense? If you have a standalone or series of books with no crossover, because it's very hard to get an ROI on just one book. If you haven't invested in professional editing and design, I refuse clients on a daily basis because just their covers are horrible. It's impossible to advertise a book with a horrible cover. That's doesn't need further explanation. If you don't know who your target market is, obviously we talked a lot about audiences. If you don't know who to target in terms of audience interest on Facebook, then your advertiser is not going to come up with that for you. You should know who your target market is. And if you don't know anything or don't want to learn about advertising. So you want to be able to check that they're doing their job well. And in order to do that, you need to know the basics about advertising and Facebook ads. So where can you find a good advertiser? We have, first you can ask other authors. Obviously, as usual, use Facebook groups and use the Allies directory. But we also have book marketers and book advertisers on Readthrough. So if you log into Readthrough, go to marketing and you filter through the service advertising, you're going to find a number of people who may be able to run ads for you. I mentioned the importance of knowing the basics about advertising before you hire anyone. Honestly, at Readthrough, we make money only if you hire people. But whenever I talk to authors, I prefer pointing them to our free courses when it comes to marketing, because I think it makes more sense for you to learn about marketing than to hire someone to do it for you. So check out Readthrough Learning. We have a series of 44 free courses. A lot of them are on craft, but a lot of them are in marketing as well. So go to blog.readthrough.com/learning. Marketing, and then you'll see courses on Facebook ads, a course on Amazon ads that I just reworked, course on growing your mailing list. They're all free. There's 44 of them, not 35. They're all free. A lot of them have been written by myself and I keep updating them. So it's email, it's all delivered by email. They're written lessons. You receive one a day for 10 days or 11 or 12 days, 11, 12 days for the Amazon ads course. And it takes just 5 minutes a day to go through them. So it's very light format. It gives you the basics. It's definitely not a substitute for paid courses. It's got nothing to do with paid courses. There's no videos and there are little walkthroughs in there, but it does give you the basics of each advertising platform and how to set up and grow your author mailing list, and also points you to further resources. So I think they're a really good place to start if you don't know a lot about Facebook, Amazon ads, or other marketing topics. And as I said, I want to give you as many resources as possible to learn on your own. So if you haven't gotten that one, this is an awesome deal. Amazon Decoded by David Gogren. You can get it for free by signing up to his newsletter, which is actually an amazing resource as well. So 2 reasons to get Amazon Decoded. Help My Facebook Ad Suck, Paid Book by Michael Cooper, but a really good intro to Facebook ads. I disagree with quite a bit of stuff in there. But whenever you hear Facebook advice on Facebook, or whenever you watch a presentation like this one, always take it with a grain of salt. People are going to talk about what works for them. I'm talking about what works for me. I try to remain as objective as possible, but everyone's going to be talking about what works for them. So try all the things that people tell you to try, but don't think, okay, that's the only way to do it. It is not. So yeah, do definitely read the book if you haven't and you want to run Facebook ads, but don't take everything in there for granted. Like you shouldn't take everything for granted in this presentation. Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, I talked about it before. It's not cheap, but it's definitely worth it. And if you want to do Amazon ads, then the reference book is Mastering Amazon Ads by Brian Meeks. So these are all the ads resources I really recommend. So that's it. Thank you for watching this presentation. I'll try to make the slides available to you. And as I said, you've got my email address, ricardo@readthrough.com, if you have any questions. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I hope you enjoyed this and have a good day and a good Ally Self-Publishing Conference.